In the previous training video, we saw how to connect the list aggregator app to a data source. So we connected it to a tasks data source that aggregates all tasks from all project sites. And we got this display which uses the default layout. In this video, we'll show you how we can change this layout by using various controls that we have within the list aggregator app. The list aggregator is structured in a way that enables you to assemble the parts that are displayed. So it's kind of a Lego structure where you can decide which part is displayed after each part, and we call these display parts controls. In this default layout, for example, you see three controls. The first one is the menu control that shows two actions in it, or two menus. The second one you see is the table control. This is a control that displays data, and it displays the data in a grid layout. And the third control that you see here is the paging control that allows you to navigate between pages. Let's edit the page and see all available controls and how to switch between them. So I'm editing the page, and here we have the Open Designer button. Let's click it. And this is the template designer. The first section is web part header, and it shows four properties that are all displayed above the content. So you see here, for example, we see the tasks title. This is because we have here this property small title, which shows a token. The token shows the name of the list. Of course, we can show here static content that we type ourselves. I'll get to tokens and snippets and all of this more advanced stuff in a later video, in another video. So for example, here you see this task title, and you also see no selected items. No selected items dynamically shows the number of selected items. And this is because the description here, again, uses some snippet that shows dynamically the selected item. Again, I will get to this more advanced stuff in another video. Let's scroll down, and now we get to the interesting part where we see main content. This is the beginning of the web part structure, and this is kind of a hierarchical structure. The top level component of this web part is the menu bar control, and this is the control you see here on the top. Now each control has its properties, and you can configure them by going to the section configure, and then you have the name of the control. So if it's menu bar, you see configure menu bar, and if I open this section, I see the two actions that this menu bar has, and I can add more actions. Now the menu bar control includes, as part of its content, the paging control. So we have a hierarchy here where each control has some properties and it contains another control. So the top level control is the menu bar that we just saw, and the menu bar includes in its content the paging control. Now when we look to the left at the web part, we expect to see the paging control right after the menu bar. Instead, we see the grid here, which is the table control. The reason is because if we go and configure the paging control here, you see that one of the properties says show paging above content, and by default it is set to off. If I turn it on, you will see the paging control just right below the menu bar, as expected. But I personally prefer to have it only displayed at the bottom So I'll make it off again. Now let's continue. So we have the paging control, and the paging control content includes a table control. And this is the main part that we see here, this grid display. This is a table control. It displays data in a table layout. And of course it has its properties. If I go to configure table, you see that I can configure which columns will be displayed. By default, if you don't add any columns, as you see here, it displays the columns that are returned by the aggregating view. And there's some other options here, like item actions. These are the actions that you see here on the right. We'll get to creating actions and customizing actions in another video. Okay, so as we saw, and I'm scrolling back to the top, we have here a hierarchy of 3 controls. We first have the menu bar, which includes the paging control, which includes the table control. Now let's see what other controls we have here and what we can do with them. So I'll start from the last control, which is the table control. This control displays data, and there's another control here that displays data, and this is the list control. Let's change the table control to a list control. So you see the result here immediately. This control again displays data, but it displays it not in a grid, but in a display which is more suitable for responsive handheld devices and mobile devices. So if let's just close this for a minute. I'm saving the settings. Okay, so to see that this display is more responsive, I'll just make the display, the browser window narrower, so you'll see that this display is more responsive. It's better than a table layout, especially when you're using all kind of handheld devices. So it's up to you to display, to use the table control, which is a more classic table display, or a list control, which displays the data in this way. And of course, every line that you see here is taken from some column from the list, and it's fully configurable, as well as the actions here, the per item actions, which I'll get to them, how to configure them in another video. Okay, so let's see some more controls that you can use with the list aggregator. So I'm opening again the designer. So let's change back from the list to the table. Okay, we have the table control here, and below the menu bar I'm changing the paging to a tabs control. Now the tabs control groups items in and shows them in tabs according to some property, according to some column value. And you can see here that now we have tabs according to the task status. And of course we can change it. Let's open the tabs, let's configure the tabs control. So you see we have a property here says group by task status, but of course I can group by some other columns such as priority. Let's see the result. Okay, so you see the tabs here are by priority, and we have some other properties for the tabs. For example, let's render it a bit to look more like tabs. Okay, this looks more like tabs. And there are some other dynamic properties which require snippets or scripts. I won't delay on it now. We can change from tabs also to groups. This is a very similar control. Again, it groups items according to some property, just the layout is different. It's more like an accordion section that you can close and open. So it's another way to display your data, to group your data. And finally, I'd like to show you also the filter control. Now, this control is available only with the professional edition. It is not available with the standard edition, and it enables you to create here above your content or below, it's up to you where you want to have this control, a custom filter. By default, as you see, this custom filter displays one control here, one text box, which is a search text box. It searches in all the columns of your list. But you can add additional columns. Let's add some additional columns. So let's say I want to have a filter that allows me to search by task status. And let's add another one. Also by task title. Let's see, task name, I think it's called. Yeah, it was the first one here. And I want the task name to appear first, so let's take it one level up. And let's add another one, maybe priority. Yeah, so we have three filtering controls, you can see them, and the generic search. You know what, I don't want to see the generic search, so I'll turn it off. And let's see the results. So I'm clicking save and close, and let's see now how this filter behaves. So we have these three filtering controls. Each control, if it's a choice, you can of course select any choice. You can select multiple choices, for example, like in this example, and let's clear it. And you can also write down, just type your choice. Like for example, here I want to search by task status, so I can just write completed. So it's enough for me to write CO, and it will filter everything by completed because it's the only status that starts with CO. Okay, and same goes here. I can simply type anything, and it will filter immediately what I see here. Now, these are the filters that appear here because they were configured by the admin, or by the one who designs this web part configures it. But as an end user, I can add additional columns to the filter. So for example, if I want to filter also by category, I simply press the mouse and drag it here to the filter. And now I have also the category filtering control. So both the admin can configure a filter, and also the end user can add additional controls to the filter in runtime. Okay, that's it. This was an overview of all the available controls and how to switch between the controls. Next videos will present some more advanced content about how to customize a more deeper customization of the web part, including using some snippets and a script to add some functionality to your list aggregator.